Underwood.
Gentlewoman from Illinois is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise today in support of H.R. 3526, the Counterterrorist Network Act. I introduced the Bipartisan Counterterrorist Network Act with my colleague from New York, Representative Katko, to ensure that the Department of Homeland Security has the tools it needs to work effectively with international partners to prevent foreign terrorist organizations from carrying out attacks on U.S. soil. As we work to address growing threats posed by domestic terrorism, we must also remain vigilant against the threats posed by Al-Qaeda and its affiliates, the Islamic State, and other foreign terrorist organizations that aspire to do our nation harm. With the Counterterrorist Network Act, law enforcement will have enhanced resources to help thwart threats to our country. The Counterterrorist Network Act authorizes the National Targeting Center, which is housed within U.S. Customs and Border Protection, to collaborate with international security agencies to disrupt and dismantle terrorist networks. Importantly, it authorizes CBP to assign National Targeting Center personnel to overseas posts to improve information sharing about terrorist networks and help prevent entry to the U.S. by travelers who are known or suspected of being associated with a terrorist network. NTC, that's the National Targeting Center, personnel play an important role in the safety of our country, including my community in Northern Illinois. We know that in fiscal year 2015, CBP was able to prevent 22,000 high-risk travelers from traveling to the U.S. through the collaboration between the NTC and other pre-departure screening programs. This number represents previously unknown high-risk travelers who were found to pose a national security or terrorist threat. The successful partnerships and programs that CBP has built with other law enforcement partners in furtherance of their anti-terrorism and homeland security missions warrant congressional support. As we work to address growing threats posed by domestic terrorism, we must also remain vigilant against the threats posed by Al-Qaeda and its affiliates, the Islamic State, and other foreign terrorist organizations that continue to aspire to do our nation harm. I would note that similar language overwhelmingly passed the House in 2018 and urge my colleagues to again support the Counterterrorist Network Act. Lastly, I would like to thank Chairman Thompson and his staff on the House Committee on Homeland Security for all of their invaluable work on this legislation. And with that, I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentlewoman from Illinois yields back the balance of time. Gentleman from California reserves. Gentleman from Tennessee is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have no speakers on this bill. I renew my recommendation that my colleagues support the bill and yield back my time.
Gentleman from Tennessee yields back the balance of his time. Gentleman from California is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 18 years after the most devastating terrorist attack on our country, it's imperative that DHS continue its efforts to prevent foreign terrorist organizations from carrying out attacks on our homeland. By passing H.R. 3526 today, Congress can ensure that DHS continues to address border and homeland security threats long before they're present at our borders. I'd also note that the last Congress, the House overwhelmingly passed similar legislation in a bipartisan manner. It was approved by a vote of 410 to 2. And I would hope that my colleagues would again lend their support and join me in passing this legislation today. And I want to thank Ms. Underwood for this most important and timely piece of legislation to protect our homeland from terrorists. And with that, I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman from California yields back the balance of his time. The question is, will the House suspend the rules and pass Bill H.R. 3526? Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, two-thirds being the affirmative, the rules are suspended, the bill is passed, and without objection, the motion reconsidered is laid on the table.
Yeah.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Mississippi seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I move that the House suspend the rules and pass H.R. 3106.